Today is special day, as every day is special. And today is the 12th day of the month of August 2026. And today is going to be, or is, the beginning of another series. And so far, in the past few months, we have looked at literatures in the Bible. We've looked at the book of Psalms. We've gone through the book of Proverbs, and just yesterday we concluded the book of Ecclesiastes. And today we're going to be jumping into a rather mysterious book. Mysterious in the sense that most people, it's a book that people skip. A lot of time when I ask people about their Bible studies, there are several books people will skip. A few books people will skip, or do not understand, or are too embarrassed. They're too embarrassed to look at. And one of those books is, the main book is the book of Songs of Solomon, or the book they call Songs of Songs, or Song of Songs, or Song of Solomon. This book has also been called the Holy of Holies. In the Bible, it talks about, the Lord of Lords, Holy of Holies, King of Kings. This one is Song of Songs. So when you hear expressions like this, it is to let you know that this is the, one of our comedians will say, this is the general overseer of them all. This is the of them all. If you talk about kings, this is the King of Kings. Lord is the Lord of Lords. And this is the Song of Songs. So what makes this song interesting? Why is this song or this poem or this collection of poems, why do we find them in the Bible? And I just say, you'll probably, the only time, maybe just the only time you might hear a reference to this book might be in your marriage retreats or marriage counseling session or marriage workshop. It is not a book that you will find a preacher preaching on Sunday. And sometimes we ask ourselves why. The truth is, also is we say the Bible is the word of God, right? We say we are a Bible church. We look at the entire Bible. We read the entire Bible. But when it comes to Songs of Song, many Christians, many disciples are embarrassed. That's just the word. Embarrassed to look at the Songs of Song because it's so raw. It's very erotic and it's very, very explicit in the descriptions that he made. So why do you have such a book in the Bible? When we see, I'll start by giving you some example. I just going through my mind. I didn't write this down anywhere. But you see, there are some things that we don't understand. And rather than admitting that we don't understand some of these things, we try to explain them away. And it happens when we have taken a position. For example, in the church, when we have taken a very hard position, and it's right also, against like anger, don't be angry, anger is bad, then you find Jesus Christ at the temple making cord and whipping the animals and driving it away. We don't want to call it, we say that's not anger, that is godly indignation, righteous indignation. Listen, that's anger. Okay. The Bible does not preach against getting angry. The Bible preaches against what you do with your anger. It said, do not let the sun go down when you say angry. He said, watch out. So again, I've met people, religious people also, who have taken a stand against, let's say, alcohol. And this happened during my youth service. I remember this thing, very well. And myself and this leader of the what do you call it again? NCCF or something, Nigerian National Copper, this thing. We're talking about alcohol. He said, the Bible. I said, do you know there's no passage in the Bible that talks against drinking of alcohol? And it was like, and this person went to go and bring up the book of Proverbs, as a part of Songs of Songs, book of Proverbs, that the queen mother was talking to her son, Lamuel. He said it is not good for kings to drink alcohol. And this person said, you see, it's not good for kings. I said, so what are I going to do with us? He said, are we not the sons of kings? Are we not? So let's watch out how we try to interpret the Bible. Sometimes we interpret it against our own biases. We all have biases. For example, people try to claim that the communion wine, or the wine, that any wine in the Bible is Ribena, fruit, fruit juice. And to do that, you have to twist the Bible. You have to twist the Bible. And is it not better for us to say, hey, this is what the Bible says, I don't know what it means, or this is what the Bible says, I accept it, despite the biases that I have. I'll give you another example. So I ask people, what kind of wine do you think Jesus Christ produced in Cana? They were like, oh, it is like, fruit juice. I said, but Bible called it wine. Wine is any fermented juice. Okay, so how can the master of ceremony or the chairman of the occasion look at his testimony? He said, you have saved the best for the last. He said, people normally bring out the best. So when people are drunk, when people are, well, it will not bring, so they won't be able to tell the difference. But you have saved the best for the last. Think about it. In the book of Acts chapter 2, why did they accuse disciples of being drunk? And what did Peter say? Peter said, we're not drunk. It's only 9 in the morning. In other words, responsible people in Jewish culture don't wake up to start to drink. That's what the Bible says. It said, woe to the person who wakes up and grabs a bottle of beer or whatever, because you have work. But in the evening, people drink. So it's only 9 in the morning, we don't drink. They didn't say, oh, we don't touch alcohol. Or after the disciples of Jesus Christ had that Last Supper, and they drank, I don't know why I'm fixated towards alcohol, but that's just an example that's coming to my mind. After they had the Last Supper, they were drowsy, they were tired, because it was wine that they had. So watch out for the things that you have bias. I have bias towards some things, but when it comes to the Bible, I just lay it flat. This is what the Bible says. Probably, maybe that's why people don't like teachers, because people always want teachers to support their agenda. And it happens to us, teachers, where this is very interesting, where people want us to say things to support an agenda. I will say, sorry, no, we won't support the agenda. We're going to say what the Bible says. All right. So let's go back to the book of Songs of Songs. What exactly does this book mean? What is it saying? Now, I will tell you up front, we probably don't know 100% of the application of the book. Now, I can tell you that. Probably don't know 100%. If you want to know 100%, we'll probably have to go back maybe 4,000 years ago. Or the other, but let's say at least we have to go back 3,000 years ago to go and ask the original readers, when they were reading this book, what did they have in mind? And interestingly, this book was read at a particular time of the year in the synagogue. I think it was the time of atonement or the time of Passover that they read this book. Why would they read a book like this? Some people have tried to say, oh, this book is trying to promote monogamous relationship, monogamy, one man, one wife. As a teacher, I'll say, well, it makes sense. Some people are trying to say, oh, this is this is an allegory, like an allegory, like a three-fourths, like we say in Yoruba language. We know what you call three-fourths, metaphor. Okay, people say it's a metaphor. A metaphor is where you have symbolism, and people will say, oh, it's a metaphor for Jesus and the church. Now, let me ask you, wait a minute, just slow down. 3,000 years ago, Jesus Christ hadn't come. How did they know it was Jesus and it? Now, because people will not go and read, oh, the church is the bride of Christ, but it's talking about explicit things. It's talking about sensual things. It's talking about all those. It's talking about the breast of a woman. It's talking about the neck of a woman. It's talking about the perfume of a man. It's talking about love making. Talk about all those things. So how do you allegorize that? Now, I don't have anything against allegorization. The Bible has a lot of allegorization. God comes to marry Israel. God divorced Israel. God divorced Samaria. And all these things. We have the story of the priests that God has to go and marry a woman who was unfaithful. But there are two ways to explain this book from my own point of view. One, there are hypotheses. Number one is the two character hypothesis. And the second one is a three character hypothesis. Now, when I say character, How many characters are there in the book of Songs of Song? Obviously, today I'm doing introduction, so maybe a bit of chapter 1. So how many speakers in a play? I mean, I did a bit of literature in Form 2, maybe Form 3. We read the book of The Lion and the Jewel, which sounds very close to The Lion and the Jewel by Professor Wole Soyinka. I love Olaro book. What's that book called? A very tiny play, Holding Talks, something like that. So you have characters. Okay, how many characters do you? Now, an average reader who reads the Songs of Song may conclude that there are 2 characters in the Songs of Songs. And what do I mean? They will say, okay, there is character 1, which is the love and the lover and the beloved. They will say, okay, there is a man who is a lover, and there is a woman who is the beloved. And most of the time, they attribute the lover to be Solomon, and the beloved. Of course, we know the identity of the beloved. She's a Shulammite woman, Shulammite. And we even have a bit of description about this particular woman, that we're talking about. She was a shepherd. So I want you to look beyond the poetic part of the story and look at it as just a story. So you have the Shunammite, and we even have her complexion. She was dark. And some of you are wearing products named after her, Dark and Lovely. That's where they got it from, chapter 1, Black and Bold. That's where they got that description from. She was dark, she was lovely, and she was very beautiful. And she was a Shunammite, and she was a shepherd girl, an ordinary shepherd girl. So try to plug that into your first description. Oh, this is a story about Solomon, who is a lover and the beloved. Really? Will Solomon go and marry a shepherd girl? Did he ever marry a shepherd girl? Then the Bible said that her skin was darkened by the sun. So she was an outdoor girl. Now, I'm not saying that a bit of Solomon did not appear in the book. But people who try to claim that this book is to promote monogamous marriage relationship, and they are bringing Solomon in, you guys will know that Solomon had 1,000 wives, right? 300 wives, 700 concubines. So that couldn't have been promoting that kind of a man, because he was not monogamous in any way. But again, teachers, most of the time people say teachers don't answer questions. Teachers create more questions than the answer. Maybe that's what we're supposed to be doing, to cause us to think, to cause us to really think. Now, before I read chapter 1, I'm going to introduce you to a concept. I'll introduce the concept to you, and we're going to see if we're going to find that concept in the Bible. Again, I don't know what other presenters tomorrow, next tomorrow, or thereabout are going to say. People can decide to choose a three character hypothesis, or the 2 character hypothesis. Most people choose the 2 character hypothesis. There's the man and the beloved. Or they say it's a romantic poem between lovers. Or people say it is between people who are in love, between married people, is to show us the love of God and man. You can say any of those things, but first, as a teacher, let me give you some historical background. Now, let's look at the 2 character hypothesis, which is something I prefer. I'm not saying that this is the only way to interpret the Songs of Song, but this is the way I interpret it. I remember the first time I made an interpretation like this. The first time was to the School of Mission years ago, and they were all looking at me. Then I was invited to come and speak to the School of Mission in Southern Africa, the South African School of Mission, SASM, that they are called, and they were also looking at me because they were embarrassed at some of the things I said, even the book, but they were much more intrigued by some of the things I said. Now, without exception, I've told you, preachers will probably promote the idea that the Songs of Songs is loaded with sensual symbolism. The symbolism, it's saying something, but it means another thing. And that's why allegory, a so of famous marriage, the one man, one woman. This is true, as I will argue. Then that idea is maybe out of what I see as the overall revelation of God's story, redemption. The whole Bible, the story of God's, redemption, how God has come to redeem us. You can say, okay, this is God, the beloved, is coming to come and take his wife, the bride, and it can make sense. And you can also use this story to encourage husband and wife to be more romantic, to look at each other. People can say, this is a story that takes us back to the Garden of Eden, when the man and the wife, they were both naked. The Bible tells us in Genesis, they were both naked and they had no shame. This is a story about, about a man expressing his desire, longing. Maybe they will be far apart, longing to unite himself with his wife, or even the wife longing to unite himself, husband. And both of them were thinking and sharing about their bodies, about how they long, about how they prepare. You can use all of those things. Now, the story goes. Now, people will say that Solomon, let me give you the story. Think about this story before I start reading it. Think about Solomon, King Solomon. He sees a girl and he falls in love with the girl. And he takes the girl like he always do. And he has his way, with this girl. And she entirely, was complicit with the erotic, liaison that he has. Now, the language of this book suggests to us, he argues, I like to say, an allegorical, it's a tongue word for me, allegorical in his way. So it shows some kind of decorum about what we usually and we often talk about, or we don't talk about. That's the act of sex between a husband and a wife. Now, that is what everybody will say. But what about you look at the story in another way? Look at the story in another way, and if you may, you want to follow it. So consider a problem we're going to have. If you look at it, so we can say it is universally accepted that this song is about the joy of monogamous, marriage, of sexual relationship between a husband and a wife, and every single thing. But that might not flow with the person they are talking about. Solomon himself is a bad example. So that's why I kind of hold on to the second hypothesis, which is the three character. Rather than saying two character, why not think about three characters in this thing? And this is how I'll explain it. So if you add this, it might make sense. It makes sense like when the teenagers some time ago, I went to preach at the teens ministry, and they asked them, everyone to ask me one question. Everybody asked me one question each, and went around. One question. They say, I didn't have a topic, but everything they asked me kind of linked together. And I said, I'm going to answer the question using just one book in the Bible, and that book of Genesis. I mean, they were intrigued. By the time I finish, come back again. I want the question they asked me. You see, when you have a pure heart, you ask questions. But as an adult, we begin to mask the question. The teachers asked me, so if Cain and Abel were the two first children that Adam and Eve had, I say yes. And Cain killed Abel, I say yes. Where did Cain get the wife he got married to? That's the question adults should be asking, but they don't want to ask it. And I said, brilliant. Now you might say, the Bible records only male child. It doesn't record female child. I said, okay, so when was that female child born? And that female child grew up. How come the female child told his story? The Bible actually said that he went to a city and married a woman. So is it not easier to explain? Now, this will rock your world. Is it not easier to explain that Adam and Eve were the first two human beings that God created, but they were not the only human beings he created afterwards? Now, some of you, that's already rocking. The teenagers actually accepted that story. That makes more sense. They were the first of the kind, but not the only one. Because this guy went to go and build a city. One person cannot build a city. And he married a wife. Is that not? In the Bible, the children of Adam and Eve were called the sons of God. They were the one who embraced whatever. They had other people that were there. But when you are older, you cannot begin to make excuses for the Bible rather than trying to understand it. Solomon had many wives. So what is special about this woman? The law of Moses, Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 17, already says that you cannot, he said, and he, the king, shall not acquire many wives for himself, lest his heart turns away, or shall he acquire for himself excessive silver or gold. Think about that. Solomon broke that rule. And if you look at First Kings chapter 11, verse 14, Bible says, from when Solomon was old, his wives turned his heart away from towards other gods, and his heart was not wholly true to the Lord his God, as was his father David. So Solomon presided over a progressive spiritual decline in Israel. So what is this story teaching us about God? So just like his king, the nation of Israel were now becoming increasingly unfaithful towards God. Then in the midst of this growing apostasy, people draw away, God now used stories to remind them of coming back, to remind them of his faithfulness, to remind them. And we read those stories like in the book of 2 Kings. We read those stories about the minor prophet. So think about this also as part of that story that begin to talk about faithfulness, fidelity. So God used this episode in the life of Solomon himself to begin to make a point to the whole nation. And what is God saying? God is saying that despite most of the temptation that you and I go through, it is possible to remain faithful and to honor the covenant, because God's relationship is a covenantal relationship. So covenantal relationship. So what if Solomon is the antagonist? It's a play. What if Solomon is not the lover? That Solomon is actually the antagonist. So now I have three people. We have the lover, the man, we have the Shulammite farm girl, and you now have Solomon as the antagonist. So this young woman was beautiful. She was a Shulammite girl, and this woman was already betrothed to her sweetheart. Think about that way. This woman was already betrothed. That means she already promised to marry someone who she loved, who's also a shepherd, just like her. But unfortunately for her, one day the king was traveling with his caravan, with his guys, and in his eyes now caught this woman. But because he's a king, he can do anything. This woman came from northern Israel, a place they call Shunem, northern Israel. He said, bring me that woman, like David, his father, will also do. So his eyes caught this woman. I said, bring me this woman. Then he ordered her to be taken to his harem. That is where the king's women are kept. Now, think about this woman was taken there. I can prove all this that I'm saying from the Bible. So this woman was taken there, and she was taken there against her will. She doesn't want to be part of Solomon's, wife's concubine, because she already betrothed, to someone. So she, in that story, you see how she is longing, she's desperate. He's longing to go back, and she actually escaped. So she escaped and she returned back to her, her betrothed. That's what she wanted to do. So she managed to escape, and that was why she asked the night watch. You see all those things in that story. She asked the night watchman there if they had seen her beloved. She was going to, have you seen my beloved? So she became, she came successfully united with the guy, and she now recaptures both the time, that they kept under, something. One to, put your head by my chest. She was now recounting. Now, let's go back to Solomon. Solomon now makes this inevitable advance to this woman. They actually captured her and brought her back, right? She tried to run away. They caught her and brought her back. Then Solomon was trying to now, make advances towards her. He was using diplomatic language, every single thing. Then after a period, maybe years had passed, because she was under captivity in Solomon's harem. Then she was allowed to now return back home to her brothers. So her brothers came to her and they asked her, have you kept your purity? Have you kept your vows? She said, I have kept my vow. There was a woman, even though she was lured by a king, she was tried to persuade by a king, she kept her vows in every way. So she tells them, that despite the time that she had been away, her youngster has grown. By that time, I said, her youngster has not grown. So it was some years. She has indeed remained faithful to the covenants of the person that she was also to marry. So Israel was pledged to God. Other people tried to come and lure Israel away. But unlike this girl, Israel went to go and follow other men. And if you look at the Bible, the book of Jeremiah, and it said other people pay they are the women for them to have sex with them. But Israel gives herself free. So this was to remind people that you have to be like that girl. Also, the end is we're going to see the end, very, very beautiful end, and you see exactly what happened. So, having given you that background of the in hypothesis, let's now go and see if we can prove all these things from the Bible. Today, I'm just going to be looking at chapter 1 of that story. So look at it. It says Solomon's Song of Song. That's how it began. Then there's some Bible passage might put the gender. That they might put a gender. Look at how it began. Say, let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is more delightful than wine. He said, pleasing is the fragrance of your perfume. Your name is like perfume poured out. Even your name is, when I hear your name, your name is like perfume that's poured out. He said, no wonder the young women love you. Obviously, even without putting a she, know that it's a woman. That's talking here. So this was the Shulammite girl. And the Bible talks about how she was talking about her lover, and so she was thinking about her lover, not Solomon. Mind you, Solomon is going to come. So she was thinking about her lover. She was thinking about Solomon. So let us continue. It said, pleasing the fragrance of your perfume. Your name is like the perfume poured out. No wonder the young women love you. Say, take me away, with you. Many songs have been written based on Songs of Solomon. Say, take me away. Let us hurry. Let the king bring me into his chambers. Now, what does that mean? Now, some Bible passage will not say the next one. It sounds like a chorus, friend. That would be friend. It said, we rejoice and delights in you. Will praise your love more than wine. That is like a chorus into the song. Then we'll now go back to this woman. What he said, how right they are to adore you. Dark, that's where the dark and lovely thing come in. He said, dark am I, yet lovely. So women, some of you have used that, that relaxer, that proverb. This is where they got dark and lovely. He said, daughters of Jerusalem, dark like the tent of Kedar, like the tent curtains of Solomon. Then this advice, I even used this advice, not long ago. He said, do not stare at me, because I am dark, because I am darkened by the sun. She was darkened. That means she was an outdoor girl. He said, my mother's sons were angry with me and made me take care of the vineyard. My own vineyard, I had to neglect. Now, you can allegorize all of this stuff. Oh, what's her own vineyard? Is it her own personal health or her own, her people's health? This is open to debate in everything. I want us to follow, this story. So you said she's dark and lovely. All daughters of Jerusalem, it's like the tent of Kedar. So this Shulammite girl was tanned because she was not a usual member of the royal harem. If she was a usual member, she's not going to, they perfume their body, they whatever they ask, Queen Esther story will let you know. Rather, she walked outdoor in her father's vineyard. She was an outdoor girl. She was walking. In that said in verse 7, it said, tell me to whom my love, my soul loves. Whether you pasture your flock. He's not asking a question. And when he's asking that question, what does all this thing mean? He said, tell me whom I love, where you graze your flock. That means she's talking to the shepherd that she is betrothed. Solomon was not a shepherd. Okay, so where do you graze your flock and where you rest your sheep at midday? Now, this story might remind you about what's the name? Ruth and Boaz. Okay, where do you rest your sheep? He said, why should I be like a veiled woman, beside the flock of your friends? Then the friends will now come. If you do not know, most beautiful women, follow the track of the sheep and graze your young goats by the tent of the shepherd. Now, after this is when the male voice will not come. But before we talk about the male voice, now this makes little sense. if she's asking about Solomon. But it makes a lot more sense if she's actually talking about a shepherd fiance, that she married. So where can her love be found? You're looking for her lover. It's not in the palace. It's not in Jerusalem. But it follows the shepherd's track. It said, follow the shepherd's track, which leads to the shepherd's tents. Then you find the lover. So this means that she is thinking about somebody else even when she was captured by another person. Okay, so this is where Solomon will now attempt to now lure her with precious whatever. So it's like you're marrying a wife, or you want to marry a girl, or you want to toast a girl, but that girl is talking about somebody else. So what do you do? Solomon had come in. He said, liken you, my darling, to a mare among Pharaoh's chariots, horses. He said, your neck are beautiful with earrings. Your neck with rings of jewel. We will make you earrings of gold, studded with silver. So he was trying to get this girl. Don't worry, we'll take care of you. Like Yoruba would say, oh, my toju, don't worry about everything. Will be okay. We'll take care of you. And the woman had replied, why the king was at his table, my perfume spread its fragrance. My beloved is to me a sachet of myrrh, resting, between my breast. My beloved is to me a cluster of henna blossom, from the vineyard of Engedi. Now, Engedi was that place that David went to go and hide. Engedi is a spa now. It's a tourist center where they have a spring. And that is where I believe that David was when he wrote some of those psalms. As my soul longs, as a deer pants for water, so my soul longs for you. So this woman is a shepherd. So using shepherd word. So Solomon was making his advances, and she was bantering about. He said, my beloved is to me a sachet of myrrh resting between my breasts. My beloved is to me a cluster of henna blossom from the garden of Engedi. Then Solomon came again. So you could see that back and forth. That's going on. Solomon said, we'll make for you ornaments of gold. We're going to store it of silver. We're going to do this one. And the lady, combats that. He said, while the king was in his couch, my nerd gave forth his fragrance. So in the midst of Solomon's seduction, she remembers her own shepherd, lover. She was talking about her shepherd lover. It speaks to me in this way and in that way. Then Solomon will come again. So you can see, Solomon is talking to this lady, but this lady is describing, her lover. Now, when you allegorize it, how do you battle sin about it? How do you battle sin? Someone come and say, how beautiful you are, my darling. Oh, how beautiful. Your eyes are like doves. And she come and say, oh, how handsome you are, my beloved. Not this guy, my beloved. Oh, how charming. And your bed is vibrant. Then someone came again. He said, the beams of your house are cedar. And on and on. So when you think about all of these things, it calls you. I mean, I don't want to jump into chapter 2 and there was all about kiss me with the kiss of your mouth and on and on. But this one challenges the way we treat our purity every single day. The way we treat our purity. Every time Israel has been under, I think I have some. All right. Okay, we're taking care of that one. So you can imagine, how do you treat temptation? What are the words that you use when temptation comes to you? When Jesus Christ was tempted by the Satan, that was bringing words. He was using words from the scriptures, and Jesus Christ knew exactly the right words he's going to use. So today we need to resolve to respond to that, to the spirit that's inside us. Rather to allow the world to drag us away. There's so many things that the world is bringing up, but we have to stay firm. And now ask yourself, in your spiritual walk, is it driven primarily by some heavy sense of religious duty? Or are you operating out of step? Or are you operating inside God? Are you living in awareness of being, drawn, by God? I mean, ordinarily, the G shepherd girl will have felt very privileged that the king, wants her. But she remember she is already betrothed to marry, someone. All of us, our first love is God. The world is going to come. The world is going to throw all kinds of things, at us. But what are you going to be? Are you going to be like that Shulammite girl? Or are you just going to get carried away? Do you know enough scriptures, to counter what the world, will throw at people? The temptation here is that it was captured into the king. You already have everything you need. Satan said, I will give you the whole world if you just bow down to me. What did Jesus Christ say? Satan said, oh, I'll give you all the luxury, all the wealth. I'm going to put it, but you're thinking about, man, I can't just forget about my God. It is the Psalms that come into your mind. It is the blessing of God that's come to your mind. Even as you are hearing one voice, you are thinking about what God has done. So the choice is for all of us today. So if the world offers you royal status, the world offers you luxury, the world offers you prestige, will you, like this girl, refuse? Because taking it will be violating your covenant with this humble shepherd that you have, your humble shepherd. Also, even physically, as people who are married, I'll tell people that the most eligible bachelors or whatever in the world are married people. Actually, you see, women will come at you, or even men, will come at you. But how will you think? Oh, I have a husband. Do you flirt with sin? Do you say, okay, well, I will not go this far. I will just flirt. I will just flirt on telephone. I will flirt on text messages. I will flirt whatever. Oh, I'll allow the person to touch me at work. I'll allow the person to whatever. Do you see that you're compromising of the court women? He said, daughters of Joseph, he agrees that her son darkened skin. She was not raised in a royal path. I'm not here. This is not where I belong. I work in my father's vineyard. You see, if you don't have good self-worth, that is where you're going to be carried away. People are insecure. They don't have very good self-worth. So they already look down on themselves. Maybe the background they come from. And because that it is easy for you to be lured away. And that is why in the midst of the palace, her heart was just crying out to the absent shepherd that is not there. He said, tell me, you whom my soul loves, where your pasture, your flock is. She refuses to veil herself as an ornament beside the king's companions. And Solomon attempted to seduce her. So God is using this poem to show us how if one girl can stand against the luxury of life, why can't Israel stand? So while the king sits in his table, she ignores all the luxury, and she begins to reflect on her true beloved. That's why we need to meditate on the word of God day and night. And as she was meditating, she was thinking about it. She was comparing her shepherd lover, to a scarlet of sweet mare resting near her chest. You are imagining God. You are imagining it rather than focusing on what the world is calling you to. Before we go, I want us to live with this. Number one, covenant faithfulness can resist worldly pressure. The covenant faithfulness that you and I have. The day you say Jesus is Lord, the day they ask you that question, do you believe that you are the Son of God? Do you believe He died for you? Do you believe He resurrected? And you said, yes, I do. And what is your confession? Paul told Timothy, do not forget the good confession you made in front of many witnesses. You said Jesus is Lord. So today I want us to remember the Lordship confession that we made. I want us to affirm that today I resolve to keep my covenant commitments. I resolve to keep it uncompromised. I'm going to choose holy integrity over any alluring shortcuts of worldly, status that we have. So, what royal offer of compromise? What royal offer of shortcuts or of worldly validation is currently testing your allegiance of God to today? Are you tempted to be impure? Are you tempted to falsify things? Are you tempted with, oh, you're going to get a cut, you are going to get this? That was exactly what that girl was doing. The second thing is that, the shepherd's voice over the king's noise. We need to be able to drown the noise of this world by the voice. Who is our shepherd? Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. The Lord, the word is raising up his voices at you. You will make sure that the voice of God in you is louder than whatever the world has. So today, let us resolve to begin to tune our ear. A lot of times when you are listening to a radio, especially all this non-digital, radio, you need to fine-tune it. You are hearing the voice, the newscaster, but it's muffled. So you make sure you get the right frequency, then you now fine-tune it. Sometimes you have to go and check your antenna. So today, let's resolve to tune our ears to the voice of the good shepherd. God is speaking. Bible said that the heaven declares the wonders of God. The skies, day after day, they pour forth speech. But because we are not tuning our ear, we're not hearing what our Savior is saying. So begin to tune your voice. Begin to tune your ear, to tune your ear to the voice of the good shepherd. You need to begin to allow the good shepherd's word to guide your step. Psalm 119 verse 105. That word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. Let that word begin to come out. I want you to pause. And in pausing, you ask yourself, are you evaluating your choices? Are you evaluating them based on either the shepherd's quiet leading, or are you evaluating them through the pressures to conform to worldly status? Whose voice are you listening to? Then finally, we need to look to, I want to think about the garden, the vineyard of your hearts. He said, they made me keeper of the vineyard, but my own vineyard I have not kept. Now this is a constant, vulnerability of these active, leaders of all of us. See, it is possible, to spend all your energy managing external projects, corporate responsibilities, family demands, while you are living your inner spiritual life neglected. Because wisdom, we've read the book of Proverbs, wisdom demands, that you guard your own heart with all allegiance, ensuring that your personal devotion to God remains pure and intact. The world is going to drag you. You can even be religious rather than be spiritual. So because of that, I affirm that today I resolve to prioritize the health of my soul, guarding my own personal relationship with God amidst all this marketplace and domestic demands that I may have. So let's be like that woman. She was vulnerable. She said, I didn't take care of myself. That is why I'm like this. I was busy taking care of others. They made me take care of other things, but about for myself. So the call to action for us today is to audit your allegiance, because this story is all about allegiance. Audit your allegiance, today. I want all of us to step away from this busy, schedule that we have. Like I recommend every time, 10 minutes, 15 minutes is what you need. And I want you to examine motives, your career choices that you have, your private habits that you have. Identify just one area. Identify one area where you see worldly pressures and the pursuit of maybe status that have caused you to begin to compromise your spiritual standard that you have. And I want all of us to make conscious decision today, not tomorrow, to begin to step back into complete alignment. Remember that word I always say, like your car. If your car tires are not aligned, your car will be going this way. You want to go straight, but you are going this way. You are doing leg by leg by. A lot of us spiritually are going leg by leg by. We want to serve God, we are itching towards the devil. So today, your allegiance is important. Everything that